Welcome to my Sport Essentials collection. This is something that's proven to be rather difficult to conceptualize and execute. The most common question I get asked is, what ball should I get? Now, given that most house shots are similar and I'm at least really familiar with the ball-to-ball relationships within the lines, I can get reasonably close the majority of the time, but it's still a somewhat blind recommendation, being that I don't know what you bowl on or how you throw the ball. I'm just going off your current arsenal and what you say you're after. When it comes to offering suggestions for sport conditions, though, that's where it starts going off the rails. I crossed with Packy Hanrahan in a sweeper the other day. If you watch Brad and Kyle videos, you'll definitely know who Packy is. He's a former Wichita State standout who's getting out on tour and somebody who really knows his ball reaction. He has a wild arsenal that ranges from new reactives to 20-plus-year-old urethane and even plastic balls that he uses for his first shot. He bowls mostly on sport or tougher patterns, and he's someone that just doesn't get lost. We got to talking about YouTube. Like I said, he makes frequent appearances on Brad and Kyle's vlogs, and he asked how tough it was to answer certain questions, and I mentioned this series that I was getting ready to do. He kind of blinked and said, well, it's a good thing there's only like 8,000 different sport patterns, right? And that's kind of the story. It's almost impossibly hard to just say that you need this ball for this volume or that pattern, because there's so many more factors that go into it. However, I've decided to attack this like most collegiate bowlers do. Most collegiate bowlers build their arsenals by numbers. A 1 ball is your strongest ball that you'll use on the fresh, heavier stuff to start. 2 balls a ball down from that, so on and so forth, down to 5-ish usually plus plastic for a couple of 3-ball bags. I'm going to do 1 through 5 and offer you what I think are the best selections from the Storm Roto catalog for that particular slot in your bag, and offer a few shape options at each point. For the 1 ball, I selected the Gravity Evolve, PhysiX, and Crux Prime. Technically speaking, the Gravity Evolve is the strongest ball in the catalog, and for transparency's sake, I was actually going to slot the Halo in here, but it's been recently discontinued. The Evolve, however, is a nice blend of several different things. The Spec Solid cover is very strong and also pretty smooth, but the strength of the ShapeLock HD core gives shape to that cover that neither the ProMotion or Crux Prime do. Now, out of the box, the Evolve is quite a bit stronger than most people realize, as is usually the case with smoother balls. Because the hook isn't as visible, it can be missed, but make no mistake, the Evolve can handle the heaviest volumes out there as well as any other big hooking ball can. The core gives it a fair amount of shape, control's important on any tougher condition, but you do need a consistent and firm shape to be able to carry, which is usually the toughest thing about heavier/longer patterns. With big, strong, solid ASIMs and an assortment of Abralon pads, you'll be able to get something to hook, but getting to the pocket is half the battle. Getting all the pins down with any consistency when you're trying to create an earlier ball motion can be a tricky balance to find. The Evolve is also a straighter ball at the end of the pattern, which helps quite a bit with controlling your angles down lane. If you find the proper amount of hook, it's very easy to adjust your hand positions to control which direction it goes down lane. I'd also say all the same things about the Halo. The one single difference in my mind is that as the Halo shines, it doesn't tame down to the degree that the Evolve does, but I'm split on the negatives and positives there. This gives the Evolve a greater amount of versatility with surface changes, and it also allows you to stick with it longer because the ball shines as the lanes are transitioning. The smoother read of spec on friction mutes transition more, so you shouldn't have to make as big of moves as quickly as you might have to do with the Halo, but if the pattern is so long and heavy that it's resisting transition and even carrying down, the Evolve's ability to cut through that and continue to shape strongly isn't quite on par with the Halo in that department. However, here's where the PhysiX comes in. The PhysiX in my mind is the best blind option in this category, or if you're going somewhere and you have no idea what the condition is going to be and you need the most versatile ASIM, the PhysiX is that ball. It's not quite as strong as the Evolve or the Prime, but the shape advantage it has over both makes up for that and allows it to stay in play longer, as I think you can move further left with it than you can with either the Evolve or the Prime. The one single downfall of the PhysiX can be the abundance of shape it has on the back end. For as much traction as it still has, it moves quite a bit on the back end. This can be perfect if you need hook and a strong move down lane to make the pins dance, but it can also cause some angle issues, more for higher rev rates than lower ones. Usually when you think sport patterns in general, you think smoother reactions like Phase 2 or IQ Tour, something that's going to hook but not be too much down lane. The PhysiX leans towards being too much sometimes, but as a true 1 ball on heavier and longer conditions, it can be absolutely crucial to have that additional shape, or you're going to be leaving flat 10s and 7s all day long. And as you're forced deeper on the lane, you might still need the windy continuous aggression of that core to help you produce that boomy shape to overcome not just the volume and length of the pattern, but the angle that you're now dealing with as well. Its ability to handle nearly the same volumes as the Evolve and Prime, but with more angle, makes it the better choice overall unless the pattern is exceptionally flat. This is where we move to the Crux Prime. The Crux Prime, above all else, is the perfect close angles and track burning ball. It's also a very good option for higher rev rates. It's not built with the natural shape to help it overcome longer patterns, but it cancels out big rev rates to help give them a more effective shape without having to sacrifice traction. With the wide footprint and chemical adhesion factor of the spec cover, it's really good at sucking oil off the lane, so at 500 or 1000 in practice, it's going to help you transition the lanes and gain traction better than anything else out there, and if you continue to throw it after that, it's also really good at controlling sharper backends. This makes it particularly effective on flatter medium patterns with higher volumes up front, such as the typical USBC Open Championships team pattern. It digs in hard and helps you build a track area without bouncing off the hard friction at the end of the pattern, and with its urethane-esque reaction characteristics, it can be a godsend on heavier but flatter medium patterns, which are generally considered to be the trickiest conditions out there. The longer ones let you keep your angles closed, and the shorter ones are just going to flat hook, but the medium ones can create angle nightmares as you need contradicting things. You need hook up front, but a weaker, smoother read down lane. You also need to throw away from the pocket to get it down the lane, but the line in between away from the pocket and too far away is razor thin. With other patterns, the difficulty is usually front to back or side to side, while heavier medium patterns are both, and I think that this was well illustrated at the 2019 US Open. The drawback to the Prime, of course, is the lack of shape, which makes it a more limited option than the Evolve or PhysiX, but I think it's also incredibly effective at what it does well, so much so that I think it's the easiest choice of the three given the appropriate conditions. There are, of course, a handful of other options, but these are the three of the currently available choices that I would be choosing between myself for the top spot in my arsenal when packing bags for a tougher condition. Thanks for watching.